PD Beats here from Pop Turner, speaking to Dion Johnstone about season 4 of Sweet Magnolias, streamed worldwide now on Netflix. Welcome back to the show, man. It's good to see you again.
You too, man. Thanks for having me again.
You know, it's crazy because it's always this surreal, cool feeling, right? Of, you film a new season of Sweet Magnolias, you play that waiting game, and then it's out of your hands and disseminated to the world. I mean, #1 in some countries already. Like, how are you feeling right now? It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, man. I feel totally humbled. With so many shows on at this time and so much happening in the world, you never know what audiences are going to be wanting and what they expect. And to know that we still have that love and there are new people who are discovering the show because of that is a really exciting experience. I feel blown away.
Absolutely. It's interesting, right? That script to screen journey, because at some point you do get scripts for Sweet Magnolias for an upcoming season. And then, you film it and you see it kind of come to life, and a lot can kind of happen in between. What is that script to screen journey like for you on this show? Does it change throughout seasons? Is it similar? What's that like for you specifically?
Well, I think one thing that's similar is each season, prior to shooting, I like to sit down with Cheryl Anderson and just have a discussion on what the major themes of my arc is going to be. I don't like to know the details, and I don't like to know how it's going to end, because I kind of like to stay in the moment as much as I can and be surprised. But I do want to know the general shape of it, so that if there's anything I need to go out and research or start just building in my emotional base, I've got the time to do that.
Absolutely. Family and friendship is the focal point and heartbeat of Sweet Magnolias. It will always be like that since season 1, since season 4. The book said everything before it was adapted into a series as well. That's always been the focal point. Cheryl J. Anderson does an amazing job of kind of throwing in other elements and themes throughout specific kind of storylines, specific seasons. There's, the tragedy component. There's the, lighter kind of sweet, heartfelt moments as well. Given what I just said, with it being kind of like the focal point, family and friendship, what are other elements that stand out to you being part of a show like this specifically?
I would say community is a huge one, and I think this season, more than any other season, I felt it quite strongly. Certainly in Eric's journey, he's gone through, processing a lot of his past tragedy, and things were looking good for a moment there, and then he had a breakup, which kind of sent him down a bit of a dark path again. But this season, he really gets the chance to experience true joy and a real lightness, and that really plugs him into the community in a way that he hasn't experienced before. And certainly when we were filming, there's so many big set pieces that bring the whole cast together, that as an actor, I got to really break bread with the people that I work with in ways that I hadn't done before as well too. So that's a big theme that I think is part of the show.
Given that theme, and you mentioned the town of Serenity, I do find it very interesting because more characters than others, and more in certain seasons compared to others. But there is this kind of like self-reflection, soul-searching, figuring things out component for a lot of these characters. And we as kind of people watching the show on Netflix are part of that journey of discovery for a lot of these characters. And like, these characters are lost, and some are more lost than others. From an acting and storyteller perspective, I do want to ask, what do you think about playing these characters that are lost, doing self-reflection? Because from the viewer perspective, right, like, they don't know they're lost. Is that more challenging? Is it more fun? I do find that interesting, Dion.
Yeah. No, I think it's very human, because Eric certainly acts as a mentor to a number of different characters, and there's been many times in his journey that I go, Eric, man, listen to your own advice. If you could hear yourself and just do what you're saying, life would be so much easier. And we are like that. It's very easy to look at other people and see what they need that could help them in that moment. But when it comes to our own selves, we can't see where we are.
Yeah.
And so much of Eric this season is living in a way, when you meet him at the beginning of the season, he thinks he's got it put together. It's very compartmentalized. And in a way, he's protecting himself, but circumstances really push him to break open and let the mess that comes from not knowing where things are going happen. And that's a great challenge. as an actor to play, and a lot of fun to be able to go there.
The show does an amazing job at, leaving you kind of having questions about certain characters and what's going to happen next. And sometimes, drives you a bit crazy because certain seasons more than others, there's been those like insane like cliffhangers, right? Where you're like, I need to know what's going to happen. It's a show that has audience members talking. They have theories. They're all on social media from all around the world. Given that, and given that you've dealt with this for multiple seasons right now, I do have to ask, are you ever conscious of the audience member watching, reacting to Sweet Magnolias while you're making it, given that they're such passionate fans? Or is that something you focus on a little bit more after you wrap specifically?
It's a good question. Certainly in the moment of filming, I'm not thinking about the audience.
Yeah.
I'm doing everything that I can to stay tethered to the person that I'm working with, to my scene partner,
Yep.
And be in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But there are events that happen. You read the script and you go, oh my God, Eric's going to do that?
Yeah.
How are people going to react? That I do become conscious that people are watching and will be watching this show, and we're certainly trying to serve something up that both satisfies and challenges our audience. So there is an awareness, but when it comes time to go to work, I try to block all of that out and just be in the moment of it.
Whenever we see a specific scene with Eric, dialogue, or certain moments, I find it fascinating from my perspective, because I'm a filmmaker as well. The behind the scenes are like, how did that line come to be? Yes, it's in the script, right? But there might have been a conversation with someone which made you maybe deliver it a certain way or differently. There's always that stuff that we're not privy of, right? That behind the scenes kind of aspect. I'm wondering if the creation of things and the making of things interests you from a storyteller perspective. And do you think they kind of have to do with each other? Like, you're not like, you're acting in this, right? You didn't like write, direct, or produce, but you're acting. But as a storyteller, are you interested in the process of the creation of things? And do you think that complements your acting at all?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always in a dialogue, certainly with Cheryl over
Yeah.
what are the themes of this season. What's the, from the writer's room, what's the intention for Eric, in these particular moments or in this particular scene? And I do my best to deliver what Eric has to say and what he has to go through with integrity and honesty. I'll fight to try to make sections that may be challenging for me make sense. And if I can't, if I'm working on it and it's just not rolling right, then I'll send a text to Cheryl and have a discussion, and maybe I'll offer some ideas that, like it might feel smoother if I say it this way, or what would you think about this? I think you may be trying to say this. Am I right? Am I off? And there's times that Cheryl's been like, no, actually, this is the direction that Eric's headed in, and I'll go, oh, I didn't. Oh, okay. That opens it up for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
And other times she's felt that's great. We can switch out those words. That makes a lot of sense. And I try to do that always before we arrive on set, so that when we go to shoot, it's all been agreed upon, and I shoot what's on the page. So I'm always trying to deliver the integrity of what was intended by the writers, because I have faith in them. I trust that they know these characters, they love these characters, and they want the best challenges for them.
Anytime a show comes back for a new season, big kind of creative questions is, how are we going to make it bigger? How are we going to make it better? Because that's the point. You want to make the new season bigger and better than the previous season. And then the other question that a lot of people have is, what's going to happen with the characters? What's Eric going to do this season? How's he going to react to certain things? As an actor, as a storyteller, how do you balance those two things that I just said? The just general, how are we going to make season 4 bigger and better, but what's going to go on with the characters this season? Because those are two different things if you think about it, right? Like, they all have the end goal of making the best season possible, but they're two different mindsets, I think, about it, which is interesting.
Right. Well, certainly the bigger and the better aspect of it, I think, comes from the writing department in terms of of what they lay out for us.
Yeah, but it's something you're thinking about, right? Once you get the scripts, like as an actor, because you have to kind of bring that to life as an actor too, if you think about it.
For sure, for sure. For me, it's kind of going, what's different about where I am now from where I've been before?
Yes.
How is Eric's joy in this season different from the joy that he was experiencing in season 2?
Yeah.
Let's say, right? Yeah, and it's a completely different new map. There's aspects certainly in the second half of this season that were uncharted territory for Eric.
Yeah.
And so to mine how to go about that, how to find that level of vulnerability and openness and joy and ease that you've never seen from him before.
Yep.
So I look at each, we shoot in blocks of 2 episodes at a time, and I try to chart each one in terms of, what's the theme of this aspect of the journey, and where am I traveling to get to this aspect of the journey, and then where do we go to here, so that that kind of helps me harness my acting senses and juices in a way to take them on a journey, so that it's not just a scene in isolation, that it's actually moving towards something that's following the intention of the overall theme of the story.
And so much happens before we go to camera in a season of Sweet Magnolias. You mentioned the journey. You could see it as 2 journeys in a lot of ways from a storytelling acting perspective. You could see it as before filming Sweet Magnolias and after filming Sweet Magnolias, or does it feel like one big journey with multiple steps in between? I'm curious about that.
Well, certainly once we wrap and it's done, it's a strange thing because then it disappears for a while. You get to go in and see bits of it if you do ADR.
Yeah.
And get a chance to see where things landed and all of that, and that's always exciting. But then it's like a whole new wave that happens when the season drops, and now you're seeing how people respond to it, what resonated with them, and so that's a completely, I think, different experience for me than the filming of it.
Yep.
And even the preparation to film for it. You prepare in isolation, and I spitball all the ideas I have in my head of what I could do and what Eric might be thinking, and then I arrive on the day and you kind of got to let that all go, just kind of trust that it's in the pot, because I don't know what my scene partner is going to give me. I don't know what the director's going to intend in that moment, and together we find what the scene is going to be.
Absolutely.
Last all question. Stages are different,
but it's interesting too to think about the fact that it really depends on where you're at in the process too. Like you kind of said, right? Like while you're filming it, it's like the journey of like, we're bringing this season to life and we're acting, right? But then it's like you said, it's kind of away for a little bit until it's back with like doing press and like the reactions online. So I find that interesting because you're actually like adding like a third journey too, right? Of the kind of like almost like post-mortem kind of reflecting of like what happened, right? Like afterwards, right? Which is interesting. So that was a great answer. I always sometimes get different answers with that. Sometimes I'll just get like, oh, it's 1 journey or it's 2 journeys, but it's like you actually added like a third, which is cool to think about. So I love that. Last question. It's always a unique journey when, you're part of something that's based on something that existed before, the original source material, right? These were very popular books, and it is not the book series. This is the live action, adaptation on Netflix. And there's going to be some similarities. There's going to be some differences, right? I'm wondering, even before you start filming stuff with Eric, right? Regardless if your storylines have to do with the original books or not, is there a relationship or interest in taking a look at that source material, or do you want to go in fresh? Because there's always that ping pong match with the original source material, because it's not the books, it's the show. And I'm wondering what you think about that, because I find that very interesting.
I haven't read the entire series, but I have read it. And there are obvious differences, but I trust the integrity of what Cheryl is helming with our world, and having the blessing of Cheryl Woods as well too, as our original author, creating the spirit of Serenity for us. That I try to stay in and not pull myself too far out of the world of what we're creating, because that can become a little tricky if you're trying to pull things in that aren't quite working with what the right.
It's a ping pong match if you think about it. And like we're like, you know what? It's like a tug of war, right? It's like the pulling, like, which is interesting. No, for sure. I find it interesting because you always have people online being like, well, it's different in the books, but it's not the books. It's the, series on Netflix, right? Where there's going to be, of course, there's going to be situations where you want to do the book justice. Absolutely. But I just find that always interesting because, you see that online a lot, right? That like ping pong match.
And I think it would be very different if we were doing a literal play-by-play recreation of what the books are.
Yeah, and that's not what it is, though. And,
it's got the essence and the spirit of what the books are.
Yep.
It's its own version of it, and that's why I have to lean into what we're doing and trust in that.
It's very well said. And season 4, Sweet Magnolias, streaming worldwide now on Netflix. #1 in a lot of countries. I'm so happy for you and the cast and crew. Dion, it was so great to chat with you again. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks for having me, man. It's always great to be here.
Yeah, Instagram, Dion Johnstone on Instagram, I think it is, or like something like that if people want to keep up to date.
Yeah, Dion_Johnstone on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, this has been Popturnative, youtube.com/Popturnative for previous episodes. You can, of course, catch Dion Johnstone as Eric in season 4 of Sweet Magnolias, streaming worldwide now on Netflix. Till next time, it's Dion and Peter Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popturnative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popturnative on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.